Hello, 3D modeling class. It's week 4. You had a week off last week because of Labor Day. Hopefully you enjoyed a little time away today. So when last we spoke, we did a pretty rough looking character using just like regular polygon modeling. Kind of one shape. I added in a couple goofy eyeballs. Um, Today I'm going to show you an alternate method, and this is using sculpting. And this is, those of you that are serious about creating characters, this is probably the way you're going to want to do it. It allows for a lot more detail and but it's obviously more time consuming. But if you want to make some really cool characters, sculpting is the way to go. There's some cool tools in Blender that kind of also make your mesh work really nice and actually make sculpting pretty easy. Um, because having good topology is critical with characters. Because oftentimes they end up getting animated, and you don't want to have a messy mesh when you're animating. So those of you that are in the 3D animation class, you may end up wanting to use a character that you create in this class for your animation class, which actually brings me to, I jumped the gun a little bit. Today we'll also talk about assignment 1, which you can officially begin this week, and that is to create a character. So first, though, we are going to look at sculpting a character in Blender. So normally we start with a new general file, but let's actually start with your default sculpting workspace here. So if you click on sculpting, it gives you a sphere. Actually let's go back to object mode, because I'm just curious. So what it has done here, it's given us a sphere, but it's actually a cube that has been like sphericalized a little bit. And I don't know if you remember me saying this a couple weeks ago, but that's because you want to work with even polygons, or like kind of relatively similarly sized polygons. So you can see here, like this is what would have been the corner of the cube. But that, we're made up of lots of little squares here, and that they're all pretty much the same size except for when you get in the corners here, which is totally fine. And what this has given us, or what we have avoided here, is having them all kind of meet in the center here and have lots of little skinny triangles that all meet in the center. So this is a good way to start sculpting. Now, one thing that is helpful for demonstration and sometimes helpful for actual sculpting as well is being able to see your edges. So like you can do wireframe here, but then you're actually seeing through it. So one thing you can do, Z is the shortcut to change your views here. So we can do solid view. But then here we've got these two little circles on the top right above my head, the overlays. I suppose I should move this. If you open this up, you can turn on your wireframe under geometry here, so you can see it on top in solid mode. So I think you can actually change, I don't know what that does. Let me just make that 0.5, because I think that's what it was before. Oh yeah, here you can change you can change the opacity. So it's like a little bit, not quite as dark if you want. Anyway, so I'm going to turn that on just for this right now. Okay, so previously, and actually, you know what, I'm going to end up being over there quite a bit, so I'll just live down here for this one. So if you remember back to sculpting in your 3D Basics class, I think I need to adjust my cropping a little bit too. Kind of been moving my office around a little bit. Previously, so we're in our sculpting workspace here. And along the left hand, we have all of our sculpting tools. And I believe you can actually resize this so you can see all of them together, and you can actually even pull it out further to see the names of all of these. And actually, maybe I'll just do that for right now. So there's lots of different things, but you'll spend most of the time like drawing and maybe using a couple other things. So if I use my draw tool, so just a reminder, we've got your tool radius here and strength. So radius is how big your little circle is. And why isn't it? Oh yeah, okay. That wasn't in my window. If you press the F key, oh, and of course I don't have key and stroke on. Key and stroke. Let's go. All right. So if you click and draw here, you can see that it's moving all of these pixels around. And you can up the strength here, so this means it'll do it more. You can also adjust the fall off size and shape and all that stuff. But anyway, previous methods of sculpting like this, you can see that as the further I pull this out, the more stretched these polygons become. So you can see like right here, we've got some really long, skinny ones, especially like right here. And remember I said in the world of characters and in the world of animating, this can be a problem. So if I undo this a few times, oops, let me go back. I went back too far. Sculpt mode. Blender has a feature called dynamic typology. Is it topography? Topology. Typography is the designing of letters and type and text. Topology is like the height of things. So if I hover over Dyntopo here, dynamic topology alters the mesh topology while sculpting. So if I click this, and actually let me make my brush a little bigger, you can see that actually did it. Oh yeah, just one click altered the topology of a little bit. So if I do one click here, oops, and I undid my turning it on. So if I turn it on with the checkbox, now when I sculpt, you can see that the geometry is changing. It's adding more geometry. So now if I look to the side here, you can see that it's kind of split all these up into different little triangles, and it's adding geometry dynamically based on what I'm doing. So this is a great method for creating characters, because you can it's sort of like actual clay. And I know that there is a clay, but like you can like slog pieces of clay onto your character. So like you can like pull out a nose, and it's actually adding more meat to it. Let's see, yeah. And so don't forget, the inverse of any of these tools is just to hold down the control key. So if I hold down the control key, I'm now like taking away stuff. But again, be careful. You can get messy here. What else can I say? So the other thing too is that you may use is the simplify tool here. And what the simplify tool will do is it will further make your geometry more even. So like, for example, take a look here. So like this is kind of what we started with, and when I use the draw tool over here, it kind of, there's a few small ones in here, there's kind of some long ones, and so what you can do is you can just go over this with the simplify tool, and you can see that it's sort of making the shapes a little bit more even. Same thing over here. So like you can see that there's some smaller ones, but if I go over it with the simplify tool, and it actually does kind of depend on how close you are, but it just kind of will simplify. I mean, that's what it does. Here in dynamic topology, you can change this detail size. So you can have, if you make this a smaller number, means it'll allow for smaller details. So if I do like 3 like this, you'll see that then it's adding a lot more detail when I do the simplify. But if I take this back to like 20, it's going to make larger polygons, like wherever I brush it. So this is another thing too, that like you want enough detail to get the the point across of what you want it to be visible. What am I trying to say? You want enough detail so that you can see the features you want, but you don't want so much detail that you're gonna like kill your system with millions of polygons. So just keep in mind that this simplify is here, and it's kind of a good thing to do near the end. It's fine to have crazy amounts of polygons. So you can see actually when I zoom in closer here, it depends. The simplicity depends on how far you are with your camera. That's just another thing to be aware of. But anyway, so this is a nice thing you can do as like a finishing touch, because I guess technically it is changing the shape of your model, but like in such a small way that hopefully it's not making that much of a difference. So you should be able to maintain all of your like features and details at the end of creating. All right. So one other thing. So the other cool thing that you can do here is there's a remesh button, and you can just like hit this button and it'll kind of redo the whole thing. Now this one actually looks a little goofy, but you can change some of the parameters in here. You can change the voxel size, and hit the remesh button again. Again, be careful if you turn this down too far, because it'll really kind of chunk your computer to try to, if you're making millions of polygons all happen at the same time. Okay, so let's actually talk about creating a character now using this method. Oh, and actually I'll show you one other thing that's cool about the remesh button. So as we're creating this character, we're going to use multiple objects as kind of placeholders. Like we'll start with the head, and maybe we'll do like the neck or something like that, or ears. And then we can join those together. And the nice thing about the remesh is it like very nicely just like connects things. So real quick, if I go into object mode and object mode, and I select this guy and I do Shift D, and duplicate it. So I've got these two things here like this. So I've got two spheres like this. And let's say, I'm modeling and whatever, this is like the neck and this is the head, and I want to join them together. You can right click and join, or Control J. And so, this is, you can see that the mesh, like this part still exists. So it's kind of meshy because these intersect a little bit. But what you can do with your sculpting is you can go back to sculpt mode, and you can see that it's given this different color here. But you can, because this is one object, you can just hit the remesh here as well, and it connected. Hopefully you can see along the center here, it just like made all these vertices kind of merge like this, and it got rid of all the extra ones on the inside. So that's super handy when connecting things, is just hit that remesh button. Because if you look at the wireframe now, it's just like a normal two connected spheres. Okay, let's make a character. So I'm gonna go File, New, and I'll do a new sculpting here. Don't save. So again, disclaimer: this is not something that I am like very good at. But you may be better at this than me. The other thing that I just like to be able to see my planes a little bit. So I'm just gonna turn on my axes like this, just X and Y, just so I can kind of see what we're doing, or maybe even also turn on Z. Just because that's how my brain works. Okay, and then because front view has Y sticking straight out like this, so I'm gonna and here in the sculpting workspace you can mirror your sculpting, which is super handy with characters, because a lot of times your characters will be symmetrical. So I'm gonna enable mesh symmetry in the X-axis. So you can see that there's a little dot. So my cursor's on the right, and there's a little corresponding mirrored dot on the left. So anything I do will happen on the opposite side there. Okay, so let's turn on dynamic topology. I'm going to turn on my geometry just so I can see this a little bit. And then let's just go for it. So the first part is just to kind of get the shape of the head. So again, I'm doing like a humanoid character here. I'm gonna increase the scale a little bit, and I'm just gonna kind of bring try to make, whoops, and I changed my tools a little bit. Oh, and of course, hold on, undo. My symmetry was off, so let's do this again. Here we go. So just trying to get like, this is going to be like a chin maybe. And maybe we're kind of going to bring the sides of the head in. I think I need to turn the strength down on this. I'm holding down the control key to do kind of the opposite. I'm just trying to get sort of a head-like shape. Just imagine, you know, like a skull. You will definitely be better at this than me. See, like, look at how giant this chin is. Come on, Nolan. The other thing I mentioned too is like getting what am I saying? Having other objects to kind of be your reference a little bit. So like, for example, if we want to just have a neck here. Oh, hold on. Let's bring in his chin a little bit. Draw this down. Let's kind of bring his chin in a little bit. Kind of make some spots for the eyes. Again, reference materials are going to be key here. Reference materials. Okay. Let's go back into object mode, and I'm just going to Shift A, add a cylinder, and just kind of scale this down in GZ. Like, we want this to be like the neck. S like this. How big is a neck? I don't know. GZ. Okay, so let's try to get into this. Whoops, back into object mode. Let's go back into sculpt mode here. Just kind of simplify the top of the head there a little bit. And again, maybe your strength is very weak, and we want our fall off to be, yeah, smooth. Okay. Just a little bit at a time. Oh, what am I doing? We want this to kind of go in a little bit here. I'm just painting a little bit at a time. You are going to laugh at this, but I'm just trying to do it sort of quickly so we can see what we're working with. Okay, let's put a little schnoz on here. So I'm going to make this a lot smaller, and we'll get the nose going. Let's up the strength a little bit. Bring the nose out. And then maybe tuck this one in a little bit. Oops, that's probably too much. And, you know, and you can use other tools too, like grab. Like maybe we can just grab this the front of the nose, and kind of bring it out like this. Do it some more. Do it a little more. Maybe make this my radius a little bigger. That's kind of like a nose. And maybe, you know, maybe we make our details a little smaller here, because it feels like maybe we make it, yeah, 6, detail size 6. So we cut it in half. So we're working with a little bit more detail, because right now it feels a little chunky to me. So let's do like a little mouth here. Maybe do some lips. We'll make this a little smaller. Oh gosh, you guys. It's so bad. Okay, hold on. We have like a flatten tool. Oh yeah. I'm gonna pull this out a little bit. Flatten, here it is. Turn my strength way down and just like try to flatten a little bit. We need a little bit more strength. Yeah, what do lips look like, you guys? Use reference images. Let's go back to draw. Draw is the tool that I'm most comfortable with. Let's bring kind of the chin out a little bit. Too much. Let's flatten a little bit more. Oh, it's looking like Michael Jackson. Oh my gosh, undo this a few times. Okay, what else can we do? Let's like get some ears going in here. I'm gonna go back to object mode, and how I've seen other people do this. We're in object mode. Shift A, um, add another cylinder, and open up my add cylinder menu, and we want it to be the depth to be like pretty small like this, and scale it down, and RX90 and GX like this, and S scale it down. What do ears look like? Look at reference images. Oops, SZ, kind of make it a little more ear-like. Rotate it this way a little bit. Okay, and then what you should do, since well, maybe rotate it this way a little bit more. What you should do, since you've got two ears, is just add a mirror modifier. So go to your modifiers tab here, add a mirror like this, and mirror it on the X. And then we can grab mirror object, and we just want to mirror it on the head. So we can say mirror on quad sphere. So we should name this head. And so this is another thing too, that like if you wanted to sculpt the head, we can go sculpt the ears. You can go in here and turn on dynamic topology, and turn on our. We probably need to like remesh a little bit. Yeah, there we go. And then here you can, add or subtract or kind of sculpt the ears to your liking, and it obviously is going to do it on the other side as well. Okay, so there's my goofy ears. Let's attempt to kind of make our nose and eyes a little bit more realistic. So we got to go back to object mode, select our head, and then go sculpt it. Except I did something to like make it dark like this. What was that about? Okay, I'm not exactly sure what I did. Okay, so let's maybe try to get our nose a little bit more realistic here. So I'm just gonna I've got the higher detail now. So I'm just gonna try to like kind of smooth. Why don't I actually get my smooth tool out here? Just kind of try to make the nose a little bit more realistic, a little bit smoother. Maybe, yeah. Well, let's try to get. Maybe I just need to delete this mouth for now because it was freaking me out. Let's try to get the nose right. Okay, so going back to draw, I'm gonna turn my strength down a little bit. I'm gonna kind of make this a little smaller, but let's have the nostrils come out a little bit. It's looking a little goofy. Make my tool a little bigger. I'm going to hold down Control and just sort of like push the nose in a little bit because it's looking a little bit too much here. And actually, I think this needs to come down a little bit on this side. So I'm kind of switching from side to side. So I think it needs to come out and down a little bit. Maybe the nose goes in here. And then let's even add nostrils. So I'm going to go like this, and then I'm going to like push way in like this. Add a couple nostrils. Okay, that's kind of a real nose. Make my tool a little bigger. Whoops, hold down Control. We're going to kind of make your nose a little smaller. I don't know, it's getting a nose job. Oh, it's too narrow right there. Too narrow here. I better get out my smooth to kind of before I do too much damage here like that. Yeah, okay. Okay. Now I think we've taken too much out, so maybe I'm just going to up down the strength a little bit. Just add a little bit more nose here. I don't know. You'll get a sense for it. But I'm pleased with that for right now. Okay, let's see what we can do about eyes. So we'll probably need to kind of, I'm just going to add some geometry here like this. Whoops. I'm just going to kind of add like eyebrow ridge maybe. Make this a little bigger so that there's a little bit more forehead, a little bit more cheeks. And I'm also just kind of doing this to really get some more detail. It's almost like I'm painting on the remesh here. And what do eyes look like? Probably should look at a picture, at a photo of somebody, but I'm being lazy. So I think, you know, your eyes kind of come in pretty close here. So if I'm like just trying to identify a space for the eyes here. Right now it kind of looks like an alien. I think you know, your eyes are like a little bit more kind of level. Maybe we'll come down a little bit more like this. Come out like this, maybe draw some more back here. Come in a little bit more. Yeah, I really think that like your eyes do kind of come right into your nose here like this. I think I had them a little bit too spaced out. Oh gosh, it's just like terrifying. Let's flatten a little bit in here. Or not flatten, smooth maybe. Smooth is maybe what we want. Because it's just so awful. Yeah, I think smooth and flatten are my friends through this whole process. Okay, so like I feel like that's maybe starting to be a realistic way to have eyes. I think we need a little bit. Whoa, undo. I think I really need to down my strength. Let's add like a little bit of cheekbone here like this. Just gently clicking, and I'm realizing, you know, you kind of realize if you're not looking at the right angle how much you're adding on. Okay. That's starting to be something. So I guess let me just attempt to put a mouth on here again. Not my strength here is characters. Whoops. Let's just draw like this. Because you know lips kind of meet like this, and then maybe you know there's a little bit of thing that comes out of the mouth. But I think my problem is maybe I'm like trying too much to like get like realistic or like kind of sort of realistic look of things, and I really just need to kind of go full cartoon. And I think, you know, one of my big problems is I think I just like this whole thing just needs to come out a little bit. It's just like a little bit too like. So let's just bring all this out. Let's bring all this out. We'll get a little bit cartoony with it. Okay. And I think one of the important things too, as your let me up the strength a little bit. As you're getting like further down the line with your detail, you'll want to like have deeper creases for things. So like, what did I even do here? Flatten this, flatten this. Don't want this. Smooth. Yeah. Now give me smooth here too. This is just ridiculous. Draw this one a little bigger. He's got like a huge fat lip. He got a collagen injection. Okay. Don't want this. I want it to be like a little bit more. What? You're nuts. Actually, how about this? What if I just like try to get the whole shape of the mouth first, and then I'll kind of like draw in kind of the crease. Okay. I'm just gonna smooth. Kind of start this over, please. Smooth this out, smooth this out. I don't like this. But I think we're okay with the like shape of it. Like I should maybe use some of these other things like what if I did like a multi-plane scrape like this? Yeah. Or pinch. What about pinch? Yeah, that's not really working it for me. I'm most comfortable with like the draw. What about clay? Yeah, experiment with some of these other things. What does a mouth look like? What does my... Take a picture of yourself, maybe. It's like a Joker. It looks like a... and I think I'm trying to make it too big, too. I think that's maybe part of my problem. Make this bigger. Increase the strength. And then maybe I do like a draw like this and I make it small and just like up the strength. I don't know. It's weird. And then, you know, because like your lip has a little bit more of a ridge here like this. Does it? So spend some time on it if you want it to look good, because mine does not look good. Mine does not look good. And you'd probably have a deeper crease in here too. So like go in deep. What does it look like? What does your lips look like? Well, I should maybe have more of a smile. Oof. And then you can add what do you call it? Eyes. So like you'd have a separate object for eyes. So like you do the same thing that we did last week. You'd have a sphere, and you'd like get it in the right size and shape and things like that. You could this would probably be something you do later down the line. Once you get the you'd sculpt in where you want the eyes first, and then you could add in the eye a little bit later. But this actually might be helpful for like getting the shape of the socket right now. So actually, why don't I do this? I'll just add a mirror modifier to this. Where is it? Mirror on the head, and then how big are eyes? They're probably a little smaller than that, right? And you can worry about these later, but then you can go back. Go back to object mode and select your head. Go to sculpt, and this can kind of help you like dial it in too. So I'm realizing that he's got an angry thing. So maybe I kind of add on a little bit more here like this, and so it's like, oh yeah, he's not so angry. He's just like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Smooth. Don't smooth too much. And let's draw a little bit more. Yeah, like what am I even doing? Smooth. Why did I bring that out? Just flatten this for me, would you? It looks way worse all of a sudden. So I don't know. Okay. Now you can do this with the whole body. So next step might be I'm gonna call this good for here right now. Oh, the other thing you probably can and should do is do like a quick remesh. You can say remesh like this. You just hit the button. Whoops. The remesher cannot run with. Oh, so you turn this off. Turn off dynamic topology, then do a quick remesh. Oh, and look, it did it. So maybe that was maybe too much. Undo. Maybe turn the voxel size down to like 0.14. Yeah, so now it kind of made it into sort of a regular-ish mesh. Okay. Now let's do the same thing with the body real quick. So I'm gonna go to object mode. I'm gonna Shift A, and working with spheres is probably the good way to a good way to go. Maybe do like 3. Sorry, I was trying to decide what kind of sphere I wanted. Look, I'm just gonna do a regular UV sphere. And we're just kind of blocking out the different parts of the body here. So remember the nice thing about sculpting and using the retopology or the dynamic topology is that like you don't when you're blocking things out, you don't have to be as concerned about the your polygons getting stretched out. So like if we're just blocking things out, we can go GX, whoops, SX like this. Oh my gosh. What am I doing? SX. And just sort of like, generally get a sense of the shape. So it's like this is going to be his shoulders, something like this. Shift A, and then, or this is going to be like his like upper torso. And then you can add another one here and, move this over here. Whoops. Use an orthographic view if you need to. Scale this down. Like this is going to be his arm or his shoulder. Add a mirror modifier. Mirror. Why can I never see it? Let's say mirror with this on the X. Okay. You can do another one. Another UV sphere, and this one's gonna be. Why do I keep doing it like this? This is gonna be. We can go SZ like this and scale this down. This would be like the forearm. So just like kind of block things out like this, trying to get a sense of the shape. And then maybe, again, mirror modifier. Mirror with torso. And like give these names probably. So this one can be like chest. And this one can be shoulder. This can be upper arm. And then we can Shift D to add another one just like this. And so we can say, yep, you're going to go here. And you're going to rotate like this a little bit. And this one will be forearm. And then maybe, you duplicate this one, and this one can be the hand. And so like here we're just like trying to, whoops, object one. I'm going to duplicate this one. Oops, I think I duplicated it twice. Yes. And SY, GY. So you're just kind of getting the different areas of the body blocked out, getting your proportions right. And then you can either like one at a time or do it all together, like join all of these and start sculpting them. So let me just, for like demonstration purposes, let me duplicate this one more time. Does this one off center? Yes. Your X location should be 0. Except it doesn't seem like it's very 0 right now. That's all right. We can deal with that another time. Okay. This is going to be like hips. This one is hips. This one is torso. Then I'm just going to Shift D this one since that one already has the mirror modifier on it. And we can scale these up a little bit. And then this one is called like thigh. And then Shift D. This one can be calf. And then we can do like one more. Shift D this one down here. And this one can be foot. SY like this, and then scale it down. And like I'm going super quick, but like this can kind of be one of maybe your initial process a little bit, just kind of get things right. So like yeah, on the side here, this needs to be rotated. This can be rotated. And the nice thing here is because we've got this in different parts, you can get a really good sense of the scale. And I'm realizing that like none of these things were really centered for some reason, which is annoying. That wasn't in the center. This wasn't in the center. Is this in the center? Yes. Is the neck? Yep. No. I was a little too willy-nilly just kind of moving things around. Okay. But that's fine. You can very easily adjust these things. So like here, I'm seeing that, I kind of want these to be a little further out like this. He feels kind of short, so maybe these things all kind of move down. Z. SZ. Maybe this gets a little bigger. GZ. GZ. And his legs are kind of beefy, so we can Shift Z like that. You can find some great tutorials about like how to block out your characters and things like that. This is just kind of like this kind of a derpy way that I do it. And then you can sculpt these individual pieces. So like if you wanted to work on the shoulders next, you can say, okay, I'm working on the chest, I guess we'd call it. Let's sculpt. And turn on dynamic topology, and then just like get to work. Whoops, and I didn't turn on. Okay, dynamic topology will not preserve vertex colors. Okay, that's fine. We'll talk about vertex colors next. So yeah, get to work on this then. It's like, yeah, I want it to be like, I want to have no neck. Or like I want to have a little bit more like whatever you need to do. And you can kind of start to blend things together too. Like, well, yeah, I want it to come down like into his torso a little bit more. I don't want him to be as skinny or things like that. Then you can just select the different parts. So then we can say like, all right, well, let's work on the torso. Let's sculpt this. And I guess you have to go back to object mode, then select it, then go sculpt. Turn on dynamic topology here. Yes. Okay. Hello? I don't know what that was about, but I think you have to make sure that you go to object mode, select the torso, then sculpt. So then here we can turn on dynamic topology and say yes. Warning, but that's fine. And then you can work on this, sculpt your thing, and say like, oh yeah, it needs to go up into his armpits a little bit more. He needs a little wider waist. So we're just gonna. Oh, and the other thing too, before I did all that, really all of that, I should make sure that I'm doing symmetry too. So it's like, yeah, okay, he's got a little bit wider hips. And you will spend more time on this. Smooth everything out. That's it. So then once you get the individual pieces, okay, hold on. I'll just do one more. Object mode, selecting the hands, then going to sculpt mode. Whoops, undo. Turn on dynamic topology. Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay, hold on. Oh, okay. So one thing. So the hand has mirror modifiers on it, or has a mirror modifier. So when I turn on dynamic topology, it gives me two warnings. It says vertex data detected. Dyntopo will not preserve vertex colors. Okay, that's fine. But then it says generative modifiers detected. Keeping the modifiers will increase poly count when returning to object mode, and that is also okay. You may like get a little nervous because when you first start to do it, it'll disappear. But worry not, because you can make your you can pull out your fingers. You may even do like snake hook like this. Be like, okay, here's one finger, here's two fingers. Maybe you won't do snake hook because that looks a little creepy. Where's the thumb? Thumbs would be on this side. Depends on how you model it. It's gone on the other side, but then when we actually go back to object mode, it does it. Okay, so let's actually join all this now. So let's say you are happy with the proportions. You've got the different like parts of the body all worked out. You can select all of this. Whoops, A for all. And first, you should apply your everything. So it says, and that would be this one, visual geometry to mesh. So that just basically applies the mirror modifiers and stuff like that. So then you'll have shoulder 1, shoulder 2, things like that. And then join all of your objects together. So you can go to object and join, or Control J. And so then you can see that we all like it's all one object, and this can be like dude. And then you can just go back to your sculpting. And remember, right now we've got all these like it has colored these in different colors because they were different objects. And actually, you know what? Maybe the one that I shouldn't have done. Actually, I'm going to undo this because I realized I shouldn't have done every single one. I don't want the eyes. So cylinder 1 and cylinder 2. So actually, I'm going to select this and the ears and the neck and everything else. Okay. Because I want to have individual control of the eyes. Okay, so I think I'm going to object apply. I'm not sure if I undid this or not, but I'll do this again. Visual geometry to mesh, which is applying all of the modifiers, the mirror modifiers. And then I'm going to go to sculpt mode. No. And I want to join first. So Control J to join. Then we're going to go to sculpt mode, and I'm going to do a remesh. There we go. And so now all of your individual pieces are joined together, including like the neck and the shoulders, and there's nothing on the inside. And so then here is where you can kind of finalize your model. You can say like, oh yeah, well he's like really buff right here. He's got a big muscle, and he also has crazy lizard hands. Okay, so you will notice that there's like these colors on here. These are called face sets. And these will come into play a little bit later because we will use these to make some clothes and also to do some hair, but we're going to talk about that next week. The last thing I'll show you here before we talk about your assignment is just like coloring, doing like some temporary coloring on here just to get like as sort of like a reference. Okay, so we were in sculpt mode. Let's actually go to vertex paint. So vertex paint, and actually I think I'll turn off my wireframe here, and I'm gonna go actually to object mode and do a shade smooth on all of this, just so it's a little less freaky. What went on with my mouth here? Oh yeah, sorry. Okay. Vertex paint. So with our thing selected here, this is like a quick way to just kind of add in some details for reference and without actually putting on materials and textures. So you can do draw here and select the color. Say like, okay, well we want some like brown eyebrows, and you can just like draw some eyebrows on here. on the mesh, on the vertexes. So it's kind of like weight paint, so you can only paint on vertexes. So it actually might make sense if I go back to sculpt. Let's remesh a little bit to add more detail. I want to see this. Let's remesh. What does it give us? Voxel size 0.05. Remesh. Yeah, okay. That's a little better. I just wanted to have a little more to work with. Vertex paint. Just so you're going to have a little bit more detail. So you're like, yep, there's his eyebrows, and like he's got a cool mustache. Or like, you know, add skin color. So like maybe this person is like a Simpson and they're yellow. You can just paint them all yellow. You know, just make your brush really big. And so like you can paint over stuff too. So it's like really easily redone. And this is just like a temporary thing. Same with the eyes. Like maybe you go back to object mode. You select the eyes, go to vertex paint, and you know, first paint white on everything. Did that work? And then get like some blue like this. There's probably not enough vertices. And actually I should do it like on the front like this. Blue like that, and then like change the color here. And black, a little bit of black in the middle. It looks weird. Anyway, you get the idea. So that's the first thing to do to like just kind of get a sense of where the eyebrows and things are going to be and whatnot. Man, this looks bad, guys. Okay. Next week we are gonna. Before I talk about assignment 1, I just want to preview next week. So next week I'll have something a little bit tidier for you to demonstrate on, and I didn't even realize that I'd put a hole right through his ear here, so that's terrifying as well. But next week we're going to look at hair and clothes, because there's several different ways to create hair and clothes, and it's sort of like you pick whichever one is going to work for you. Now let's talk about assignment 1, which you can begin this week. And assignment 1 is to make a character. Let me pull up your prompt here. Sorry. Signing in to D2L. Okay. What class is this? This is modeling. And let's change my role to student. Okay, and assessments and assignments. So this week you don't have a weekly or a 1 hour model because I want you to get started on assignment 1, which is to create a character. So your prompt is 15 points. Create a character using any method you prefer. It does not have to be a humanoid. And add an armature so you can put your character in different poses, and add materials and render 2 different poses. Try for efficient topology. Please submit your Blender file and 2 rendered images. 8 points are for just having a character model with nice topology. 5 points for having 2 renders, and then 2 points for an on-time submission. So let's look at the calendar now. Let me pull this up. This is the modeling. Okay. So here we are. This is week 4. We zoomed to look at our 1 hour models. So character assignment number 1. Hair, clothes, and clothes, hair, and armature. And so we talked about, this is your lecture about character creation with sculpting. So next week we'll go over Claire's hose and armature. hairs, clothes, and armatures. In 2 weeks, on September 26th, we're going to do a little progress report on and see how you're doing with your characters. Show what you got. Show it to the class. You will then have one additional week to turn it in. So October 3rd is the deadline for assignment 1 to create a character. So your objectives to get started are to just work on the model of your character. Do a T-pose, because later on and next week we'll add an armature so that you can put it in 2 different poses. That's another part of this assignment. Is I want you to render it out in 2 different poses. So spend the first bit of time here, now that you can begin this assignment, deciding how you want to model it. If you want to do kind of the simpler polygon modeling method, or do like the little bit more advanced like sculpting method, adding in the different parts and things like that. Next week I'll talk about hair and clothes, and then hopefully you will already have a start on your character model and you can add some of these things. And then the final piece will be adding an armature and changing the poses for 2 different renders. Okay. That's it for this week's lecture. Good luck, and have fun creating a character. I can't wait to see what you come up with. I know your characters will be a lot cooler than mine. And don't be shy on like looking for well, okay, hold on. I'm not trying. I started wrapping up too soon. You should not just start modeling. Your first step in this assignment should be to come up with an idea. If you're a talented illustrator with a pen and pencil, paper, draw out some ideas, or like search the internet for some ideas, because it's really hard to just start from scratch, to start with nothing. I know I said this in the last lecture, but like come up with some ideas first. Spend an hour, spend 30 minutes just like doodling, coming up with ideas, because then it's so much easier when you're sculpting to have something to work off of, to have something to reference. And maybe it's just looking at maybe you want to try to recreate a character that you've seen in other forms of media. That's fine too, but you're the one who's creating it. Okay, so start from there. Anyway, that's it. Good luck. See you next week. Email if you have questions. Toodaloo.